I'm going to title this video, Fasting, What is Radical? I have been fasting now since January 1st, almost 6 months, using cold pressed juice from a Norwalk juicer and a few additives. So I've had several people say to me, boy, that's radical. 6 months on only juice. Let me tell you what I think is radical. I think a heart transplant is radical. I think a quadruple bypass is radical. I have a friend that I told about Norwalk juice and Protandem, the anti-aging supplement that I'll talk about in a minute. And he was obese and decided not to take my advice. He went into the hospital. The doctors cut his whole colon and guts out. Now he lives with a colostomy bag and is near death. I have another friend, or had another friend, who had the same thing done, and he took to alcohol and one day fell over, hit his head on a table, and he is now deceased. I could tell you more and more stories about what is radical. Believe me, fasting on whole, raw, pulp-free juice is sensible, prudent, and wise. I've lost over 60 pounds. I've rejuvenated my body. I could go on and on and on, but if you go to my website, which I'll point out in a minute, I have all the information you could possibly want, both about fasting and about anti-aging. So what is radical? Is drinking whole cold-pressed juice radical, or is a heart transplant radical? Is a quadruple bypass radical? Is living obese for year after year after year and getting diabetes, is that radical? You decide. My advice is explore fasting with cold pressed juice. Now, if you can't afford a Norwalk juicer, which is a little under $3,000 for the juicer itself, I want to mention, if you can't afford a Norwalk juicer, there are many places across the country that sells cold pressed juice. I want to point one thing out about going on a juice fast. I add a superfood supplement. I add a tablespoon of spirulina powder and a heaping teaspoon of lecithin granules, and I keep them in recycled glass Gerber baby food jars. And I add that to my juice at least once a day. Now, if you're going to do a long fast like mine, more than 2 or 3 weeks, it's a good idea once, twice, or 3 times a day to take some psyllium powder like I'm going to do now. I'm just going to demonstrate how to do it. You take a tablespoon of psyllium powder, put it in a shaker jar, shake it up, drink it down. That's all there is to it. 2 or 3 times a day helps sweep the colon of any debris that's in there, gives you a good bowel movement, and helps you get rid of any toxins that might be dumped into your system. So there you have it. What is radical? Cold pressed juice or a heart transplant? I hope you found this useful